And China, while it might represent circa 12 to 13% of oil consumption in the world, it's more like 40 to 50% of, if you like, minerals and metals demand. So therefore, it has a much greater impact and influence on the marketplace. We are seeing China start to pick back up again. While we saw a huge demand destruction in the month of February, we're probably looking round about being back at 80% of capacity. One of the bellwethers we use for that is, if you like, power consumption. It's around about 80%. Our office is fully staffed in China, and business is coming back. Also, roughly 65% of China GDP is domestically based. So then it's a domestic demand which is fueling this. However, China does also rely on the export market. So therefore, there's a note of caution here. While we're seeing an increase in demand for minerals and metals, and prices potentially increasing, we do rely on the export market. So we may see, if you like, some slight tempering of those more positive views.
Yeah, Mr. Ware, I'm curious, are you seeing increased credit risk at all from some of your counterparties? Obviously, you're selling things, but you got another person on the other side is good for paying you.
Sure. Look, I think at the end of the day, the system's under stress. We are seeing people, and particularly when you see price volatility that we've seen across the entire commodity markets, obviously as well as the equity markets, put some stresses under the system, and people are acquiring liquidity, and they have non-performance as well in some of their businesses. So it is a challenge, but we work very closely with our customer base. We support them where we possibly can, and it's just trying to sort of weather the storm.
Right. And what about logistical issues? When you're sending cargoes somewhere, are there actually people there to unload it all, or is that going to become an issue as well?
We are seeing problems in some ports. There's, to some degree, confusion in some locations, but ports are generally operating, but then you have problems with stevedores, pilots on vessels, etc. So it is an issue. So we are seeing issues around the world which are stopping cargoes moving. For example, we're actually, as an organisation, we're involved in exporting of medical equipment just to try and help this problem, and just to try and logistically get cargoes of masks and surgical gloves, etc., out of China is a problem.
And finally, the U.S., back to production, where we started here in oil. Where do you think, we're at 13 million barrels a day, where do you think we need to go in order to really stabilize the market worldwide?
I think it's not just a US burden, it's obviously a global burden. And we should see, obviously, the market recover back to normality or close to normality within a period of time, whatever that period of time is, at 6 months or 9 months, etc. We are going to have to see significant cuts in the US, though, and it's probably going to be economically driven, whether it's a couple of million barrels. I don't know the answer to that, but effectively we are going to see prices lower, I believe. And we're going to see a problem with producers being able to sort of survive in that environment. So it's going to be tough, unfortunately, for the next 3 to 6 months.
Mr. Ware, I very much appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Jeremy Ware is the CEO of Trafigura. Sarah, over to you.
All right, we're taking a turn south here in the market, David, with the Dow now down 200 points. Still to come, Goldman Sachs chief economist Jan Hatzius on today's jobs number. Stay with us.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app to see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow @TuneIn and always be in the know.
Keep up with everything happening in the wild world of pro wrestling with the TuneIn podcast. For expert analysis straight from the WWE to Steve Austin's no-holds-barred conversations with wrestling's biggest personalities, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, explore a sports documentary on TuneIn, like Sports Wars, telling the origin stories of classic rivalries, Raise Sports, about the concussion crisis that threatens football's future, and Dunkumentaries, a podcast devoted to the beauty and power of the slam dunk. For these and more, search sports documentaries on TuneIn.
We're all in this together.
Together.
This is the kind of card that has America talking. With it, people with Medicare are getting all-in-one coverage for their doctor visits, hospital care, prescription drugs, and more. This kind of insurance, called Medicare Part C, may also cover dental care, eyeglasses, hearing aids, fitness programs, vitamins, even healthy meals and rides to the doctor. With this kind of coverage, you do not need a Medicare supplement insurance plan. You will access your benefits through your Medicare Part C plan for one low and oftentimes $0 monthly plan premium. You deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits. Call now for free information that may help you get more coverage for less money. There is no obligation to enroll. Whether for yourself or someone you love, call the number on the screen now. Call now.
Dow's down just about 200. Time for our ETF Spotlight. Today we're taking a look at the iShares U.S. Home Construction ETF, ticker ITB. It's on track to post a double-digit loss for the week. It's down almost 2% again. Concerns around the housing market, of course, with so many job losses piling up. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. Shake Shack CEO Randy Garutti just moments away on how his business is adapting to all of those stay-at-home orders across the country. We'll be right back.
Keep up with everything happening in the wild world of pro wrestling with a TuneIn podcast. For expert analysis straight from the WWE to Steve Austin's no-holds-barred conversations with wrestling's biggest personalities, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow @TuneIn and always be in the know.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, explore a sports documentary on TuneIn, like Sports Wars, telling the origin stories of classic rivalries, Raise Sports, about the concussion crisis that threatens football's future, and Dunkumentaries, a podcast devoted to the beauty and power of the slam dunk. For these and more, search sports documentaries on TuneIn.
Why do things that are supposed to make life easier sometimes feel so complicated? IBM Watson is different. It's AI that works on any cloud to help your business tackle problems. From building smarter cars to predicting sales trends to improving customer service without slowing you down.
For nearly 100 years, we've worked to provide you with the financial strength, stability, and online tools you need.
And now it's no different.
Because helping you through this crisis is what we're made for.
Tiny Diamond is my name. Yeah.
Get the latest coverage.
And an update now on the outbreak in America.
On the CNBC app.
All coming to you live from separate locations.
Market coverage, breaking news.
The pandemic controls the action.
Stay connected, stay informed with the CNBC app.
Consumer staples, one of the only sectors in the green right now. Let's get the latest on the coronavirus outbreak. Frank Holland has an update for us. Morning, Frank.
Hey, good morning, Sarah. Here's the very latest. Air travel in the U.S., it continues to shrink. The TSA says only 124,000 passengers went through its checkpoints yesterday. That's down 9% from Wednesday and 95% lower than the same day a year ago. Some cruise ship passengers who have been stuck at sea for a month due to coronavirus cases on board, they're finally getting to touch dry land. Buses are taking healthy passengers to the airport. 14 critically ill people have been taken to Florida hospitals. A Dallas County judge has ordered the craft chain Hobby Lobby to close its stores. Hobby Lobby says it's an essential business and should stay open. The judge says businesses that ignore the state's virus restrictions are putting profits ahead of people. And Target is joining the list of companies limiting how many shoppers can be in a store at the same time. Those new rules, they go into effect tomorrow. And just out, the death toll in Britain has risen 23% since yesterday to 3,605. Britain now has more coronavirus deaths than China. As always, for more coronavirus coverage, head to CNBC.com. Carl, over to you.
Frank, thank you very much. Dow's down about 200 on this Friday. Kudlow making the rounds and on the tape right now saying that the White House cannot move to reopen the economy until they're satisfied, quote, on the health side. We will watch that. When we come back, we'll talk with Goldman's chief economist, Jan Hatzius, about the jobs number this morning. Don't go away.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today. Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest
charts and helping you understand what they mean. Don't get mad. Get E-Trade's simplified technical analysis.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
It's TuneIn Sports on this day, March 27th, 1988. The Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks match up in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Now, it draws a crowd of 62,046, the largest in any game in the NBA history. And the Bulls win 89-74.
Well, there's no question the spotlight today will focus on Dominique. Given what happened last week, I would think there's some incentive for Dominique.
To listen to conversations breaking down the moments just like this, click on Sports to be part of the discussion on TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
It holds.
The record-setting pace of job growth in this country came to an end today with the March numbers down 701,000. Let's bring in CNBC Newsline Goldman Sachs chief economist Jan Hatzius this morning, talk more about the numbers and what lies ahead. Jan, good morning.
Hello, good to be with you.
High Frequency today said that's just the tip of the iceberg, and judging from some of the predictions you have about GDP growth in the middle of the year, I can't imagine you disagree.
I don't disagree, no. This is a stale report, even though it was 600,000 below consensus expectations. It doesn't really tell us, anything. I think the thing to watch is the jobless claims numbers. Those have shown close to 10 million initial claims over the last 2 weeks. And so that's a much more up-to-date data point that's really driving home the scale of the employment losses. We think that over the next few months we'll go to a 15% unemployment rate. And I think the claims numbers are consistent with that, assuming that we'll see some further numbers in the millions in coming weeks.
So, given that, 15%. Some Fed officials have been talking about that kind of range mid-year, but ending closer to 8%. I wonder if you think that's fair. And how are you absorbing and processing the effectiveness and execution of policy response, especially today, given the SBA loan program?
Well, I think 8% by the end of the year would be that's more optimistic than what we have. But we do think that in the second half we will see declines in unemployment, very, very sizable declines in unemployment, but from an extremely high level. So we end the year in our forecast at 9.5%. But obviously there's a lot of uncertainty. I certainly agree that as the medical news improves and as the economy reopens, we will see strong growth and also improvement in employment. In terms of the policy response, I think the policy response has been very aggressive, very activist, and I think that's been true on the monetary side, and it's been true on the fiscal side. But we're also just dealing with a shock of historic proportions, so it's easy to fall behind and then discover that you need to do more, and that's already happened several times. The fiscal package a week ago was a lot bigger than I think what anybody was expecting a week before that. But it's also become clear, I think, to many people that it's not going to be the last fiscal package, and there will be a phase 4. So we're still in the phase, I think, where the policy response is scrambling to keep up with the scale of the downturn. But they've been very activist for sure.
Jan, a lot of people are opining that it's not the policy response that's going to save us, it's the science that it's going to save us. And as a result, that's why there's so much attention paid on diagnostics and testing and therapeutics and vaccines. How are you bringing that into your modeling? That must be something, I imagine, somewhat new for your desk, getting the best intelligence on the science that lies ahead.
Of course, it's very new, and we're economists. We're not medical professionals or experts. So it's clearly something that's very challenging. I would definitely agree that the medical news, and both in terms of how effective these social distancing restrictions and the lockdowns are, and in terms of what the scientists come up with in terms of diagnostics, testing, and treatment, that is going to be the number one question also for the economy. I think where economic policy comes in is basically in terms of limiting the amount of second round effects and multiplier effects that work through the labor market and through the real economy and through business bankruptcies on the one hand, and through the financial system on the other hand. Policymakers basically have to make sure that when the medical news improves and the economy from that perspective is ready to turn, that you haven't done so much damage to labor markets, businesses, and financial systems that prolongs the slump unnecessarily. That's what they're focused on, and they've done an aggressive job with it, but it's still an ongoing process, I think.
Well, to that question, and Jan, it's Sarah, good to talk to you. What is the limit to monetary and fiscal policy stimulus?
It's hard to know what the limit is. I mean, I think that I don't think that we're close to the limit in the environment we're in at the moment. I'm not worried that we're going to be reaching the limits of for example, Fed balance sheet growth anytime soon. And I also think that large or very large government deficits in this sort of environment, when it's clearly a temporary crisis situation, the playbook for that and the limits, whatever those limits are in normal times, they're just very, very different now. So I don't think that that's going to be a practical constraint anytime soon. It's a good question, and whether at some point we would be reaching those limits. I just don't think that we're close to those limits at the moment from a practical perspective.
Also wanted to talk to you about your new economic forecast. Got a ton of attention this week. Second quarter GDP, you predict will fall 34%. I think that's among the lowest that we've seen on Wall Street. How do you get to that number, and how do you think about how quickly we can turn around from there?
Yeah, so the 34% decline that we have is 34% on a quarter-on-quarter annualized basis. So it's about 10% below the first quarter level on a not annualized basis, and then you basically have to compound that to get to these Q-on-Q annualized numbers. Another way to think about it is that we think April is going to be probably the worst month. We have that down about 13% from January. If you thought about it from a monthly perspective, monthly level of GDP would be down about 13%. And then after April, we have a slow recovery in the level of output built into the forecast. That does assume that the medical news improves, the new infections come down through the month of April, and then starting in May, we start to get some return of economic activity in selected areas, and then that process kind of builds through the rest of the year. And then by the end of the year, we still have the level of GDP about 5%, 5.5% below the year earlier level. So I would call that sort of a U-shaped recovery in some ways, but it nevertheless would mean very sharp declines in the first half of the year, and then pretty strong growth rates on a sequential quarter-on-quarter annualized basis in the second half of the year. So that's basically the way we're thinking about it. Obviously, a ton of uncertainty around all of these numbers, but that is our baseline.
Yeah, I mean, the whole recovery question is hard to figure out, Jan, because it doesn't seem like it's obviously not the normal business cycle patterns that we would observe. What should we be watching? Is it jobless claims? Is it that real-time data like movie theater attendance and occupancy at hotels? Give us a sense of how you are crafting these forecasts in such an uncertain and unprecedented health crisis.
Yeah, in terms of crafting the forecasts, we basically went through the different components of GDP and used kind of a combination of industry reports and more anecdotal information about job losses and shutdowns to come up with this kind of maximum decline in a lockdown scenario. And then we started from there. April, assuming April is the worst month, maybe it's going to be similar in May. I think that's certainly a reasonable downside risk that it takes longer. But then at some point after that, you start to get a gradual recovery. In terms of how to monitor that, I think jobless claims probably are going to be our best bet in terms of data releases. In this kind of situation, you want a data release that is, one, very timely. Jobless claims are released 5 days after the end of the week to which they refer. And you want something that doesn't incorporate a lot of assumptions and imputations from the statistical authorities, because those are just very, very difficult to do well in this kind of unprecedented environment. Jobless claims also score very well on that score, because after a plunge that is as deep as what we saw in China in the January-February period and what we're seeing in the U.S. and Europe now, you can see a turnaround that generates some very strong growth numbers by normal standards. That growth numbers that would be sort of off the charts strong by any standard except the standard that we should be applying at the moment, because you've got to compare it with the decline that you had previously. So that's encouraging. However, it's also true that the weakness that we're now seeing in the rest of the world, almost everywhere, that is a risk, and especially in terms of what it means for the industrial numbers in China. If there's no demand for the Chinese products, then of course that recovery is also at risk. So I think it also drives home a risk to the the rest of the world, that when you're ready to recover, you also need to have aggregate demand supporting that recovery, not only in your own country but also in other countries. And that again takes me back to the policy response and the importance for macro policy to be just expansionary on an unprecedented scale.
Well said, Jan. This is our first Jobs Friday without seeing you in person. We miss you. We hope all is well. We'll talk to you soon. Jan
Thank you so much. All the best to you as well.
Sarah.
Monday, don't miss our exclusive interview with the former Fed Chair Janet Yellen. That is this hour, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here, Squawk on the Street. Don't go anywhere. We're back in just a moment.
Keep up with everything happening in the wild world of pro wrestling with a TuneIn podcast. For expert analysis straight from the WWE to Steve Austin's no-holds-barred conversations with wrestling's biggest personalities, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow @TuneIn and always be in the know.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, search sports documentaries on the TuneIn app.
New York City's a travesty. The mayor waited way too long to impose the lockdown. Now we're all paying for it. So I think a nationwide shelter-in-place order would make a huge difference in the course of this pandemic. Watch or listen live on the CNBC app.
One hedge fund manager says the worst is yet to come and it's not too late to go into cash. Find out more on tradingnation.cnbc.com. More Squawk on the Street coming up.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
It's TuneIn Sports on this day, March 27th, 1988. The Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks match up in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Now, it draws a crowd of 62,046, the largest in any game in the NBA history. And the Bulls win 89-74.
Well, there's no question the spotlight today will focus on Dominique. Given what happened last week, I would think there's some incentive for Dominique to go.
To listen to conversations breaking down the moments just like this, click on Sports to be part of the discussion on TuneIn.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what...
Dow's down about 1%. A lot of moving pieces this morning, whether it's the oil headlines that are coming hot and heavy, Kudlow's comments about reopening the economy, the small business loan program launching today. A lot to watch, and a lot more Squawk on the Street continues in just a moment.
Keep up with everything happening in the wild world of pro wrestling with a TuneIn podcast. For expert analysis straight from the WWE to Steve Austin's no-holds-barred conversations with wrestling's biggest personalities, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow @TuneIn and always be in the know.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn from the App Store today.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, explore a sports documentary on TuneIn, like Sports Wars, telling the origin stories of classic rivalries, Raised Sports, about the concussion crisis that threatens football's future, and Dunkumentaries, a podcast devoted to the beauty and power of the slam dunk. For these and more, search sports documentaries on TuneIn.
$1 a month with a great rate. Now I can go do what I want to do.
Visit Credible.com to see how much you could save on your student loans.
Hi, Linda. Looks like you've got a prescription to fill. Any idea how much that's going to cost in there? The exact same drug that's $10 at this pharmacy is $150 at this one. GoodRx finds prices and discount coupons on every prescription. Just input the drug name and instantly find savings at virtually every pharmacy in America.
Next. What can I do for you? Here's my prescription, and I have a coupon from GoodRx. Nice price.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions with GoodRx.
Welcome back. We continue to look at the business impact and fallout of COVID-19 and the near shutdown of most American cities. Shake Shack CEO Randy Garutti joins us now. Randy, good to talk to you. I know you put out an update on the business just this week saying same-store sales were down 29% for March. Give us some color as to what you're seeing and how many of your stores are actually open.
Well, thanks, Sarah. And I do just want to say thank you to all of you for how you've covered this for our industry. It's been everything from small mom and pops to larger independents like my pal, Danny Meyer, or large public companies like us. Everybody's impacted. And look, we're guiding with a few simple guiding principles that we've always had at Shake Shack, and that's leading with taking care of our team. And my message to that team has been, we're going to lead with hope. We're going to act on reality. And there may be some tough decisions we make in the short term, but our balance sheet is strong. We're going to come out of this strong. So, yeah, we've seen deep impact to our restaurants. You think about Shake Shack is a company born 16 years ago on the notion that people should gather together. And when the very actions we must take are exactly the opposite, it's a business pivot. And I got to tell you, I'm so proud of our team for the things that they've done. We've gone from a restaurant that's never had a drive-through, we don't have any, to most of our restaurants are operating as a drive-through right now, whether it's your car or yourself. We've added, all the digital infrastructure that we built earlier this year is the very reason we're still in business, doing the sales we are, even though they're reduced. We're open. It's safe. We're keeping our team safe. We're doing contactless and keeping people distance from each other. And I just think the heroic opportunities that our team is taking right now has inspired all of us. It's just been awesome to watch, and we're hanging in. It's tough, but we're gonna come out of this, and on the other side, I think in a forever changed retail restaurant landscape, in a really strong position.
Yeah, we definitely want to talk about that, but first on the delivery item, you mentioned that you're open. That's good news, and you've expanded delivery, contactless pickup. How is that going? What are you learning about what consumers want and how you're keeping it safe for them?
Well, you look back, we were never a huge delivery company, although it was a growing part of our business before this. What we've done this last couple of weeks is taken the opportunity with some great partners with DoorDash, Uber Eats will be coming on, Postmates, Caviar, and our existing relationship with Grubhub, and just expanded on those, giving people wherever you are, whoever your favorite delivery partner is, the opportunity to grab your Shack. We've also done some cool stuff. A few days ago, we launched an opportunity with a company called Goldbelly, where you can actually pre-order Shack burgers to cook at home. So if you just can't even get to a Shack or you can't get delivery, you can now order these packs to cook at home. But the combo, I think, of delivery, working on our own Shake Shack app, which we're doubling down right now on all of our investments in our digital infrastructure, creating this kind of curbside to go vibe that we never had before. And now we have it, and people can come, they can be safe, they can keep distance, and they can get fed. That's been one of the coolest things. So yeah, delivery's up, digital is up, and we're doing what we can to make these businesses make sense for the moment.
Hey, Randy, it's Carl. I saw that ad for the Shake Shack kits, and I thought that is genius because all of that household food budget is going from out of home to in home, and that just seems like a natural play for you. I wonder, how hard was it to do that quickly, and is it sort of an admission that eating out structurally is going to change, even after things, quote-unquote, get better?
Well, the good news is it wasn't that hard to do. We're doing it a couple ways. We did it with Goldbelly nationwide. We even started, we have this amazing producer where, everything we do is no hormones, no antibiotics. And we've got this small group of farms in the Bay Area, San Francisco, that help us with grass-fed, organic beef. And they're doing kits even out of our shacks in the Bay Area where you can come by the shack, pre-order on the app, and pick up a kit to go home. It was pretty easy to do when you have an entrepreneurial, incredible team like we do. But I do think, Carl, you said it. We're all going to be changed by this. Now here's the thing. I remember, we've all talked about this. I remember 9/11, right? I was managing a restaurant with Danny Meyer. And in the days following 9/11, what was our antidote? It was to come together, right? And that's what we all did, whether it was a blackout or Hurricane Sandy or name your favorite worst tragedy that we've been through, we came together to solve it. When the opposite is what we have to do today, it's crazy. And, look, the root of the word restaurant means to renew. So here's who I think we're going to be. At the end of this, people are going to want to gather. Man, we are going to want to be with friends and families and coworkers, and we are going to want to renew. And you can bet that Shake Shack as a community gathering place is going to be there. And yeah, we'll forever have some new sticky behavior where people are going to want delivery. They're going to want to pick up. And that's why we're doubling down on those now, keeping our balance sheet strong. So out of this, whether you want to come to us or we want you to come to you, man, we're going to be there and we're going to figure this out for what's ahead.
I love the optimism, Randy. Just since you mentioned the balance sheet, I mean, the stock is down about 50% in the last 3 months. I know you drew a line of credit. Just talk us through how you're thinking about capital allocation and managing costs and how much longer the nation can be shut down as you make these tough decisions and how that's going to impact you.
Yeah, look, this is a crazy shift for Shake Shack. We've never had debt ever. We have had a tremendous balance sheet since our IPO 5 years ago, never had to borrow, and we're building a ton of restaurants. Last year, we finished the year up 30%. There's not a lot of companies, or certainly restaurant companies, who had that kind of growth. And we built more restaurants than ever. We built 73 shacks worldwide, and we had a plan to do even more this year. However, there's a moment where we just got to pause. As any smart business leader and person is doing today, it's about liquidity and making sure that on the other side of this, we are well positioned, because not everyone will be. On the other side of this, we will be. So we did pull a $50 million revolver. We have a lot of opportunities for additional liquidity should we need it, and we're continuing to look at all those. I think we'll benefit from the stimulus package. We'll have our own opportunities there in order to keep paying people and get a good loan from that. That'll be a good low interest loan. So our liquidity is strong. But for the moment, we've got to pause restaurant building, right? Most of our capital goes to building new shacks. We build these incredible community gathering places. So we've paused. And I'll tell you, we're really thankful for the conversations we've had to have with our landlords, both small independent and the largest companies. People who have said, we get it, we're in this with you. At the end of this, we need Shake Shack to be a place that people gather in our building or our development. And we've had to pause those. We will pause those. I think there is no question that we will get back to exciting growth again. The question is when. In the meantime, we're going to shore up that balance sheet, make sure we've got that cash so we can pounce on the end of it. One of the other things we're thinking a lot about is, who do you want to be when you come out of this? All of us are thinking about that. We've got still a strong recruiting team in place. We've got a team who's interviewing people every day so that on the other end of this, all the superstars who are out there can come work at Shake Shack. We don't know when that day is, but we do know it's coming. And when it is, we want to be there ready to allocate the capital that we have to get back to growth as soon as we can.
Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
And keep us posted.
Will
CEO
do.
of Shake Shack. Carl?
Sarah, that was a good interview. We'll see you on Closing Bell this afternoon. In the meantime, good morning, everybody. I'm Carl Quintanilla. Welcome to Squawk Alley, joined by Morgan Brennan and John Ford, of course. On a pretty interesting day for markets, Dow's well off the lows of minus 324 today. We're holding 2,500. Obviously, a lot of moving pieces, the jobs number, oil headlines, and some remarkable guests today already, guys, whether it was Speaker Pelosi, the CEO of 3M with Jim and David this morning, the CEO of UTX, Brian Moynihan talking about these small business loans, Morgan. So there's a lot to watch.
There absolutely is. And then, of course, we've got the launch or the beginnings of the launch around these loans for small businesses as well. So all eyes on that, too. Speaking directly to the fact that we did have Brian Moynihan on to talk about that. It's pretty incredible how quickly these banks are rolling out these programs right now, process that would normally take many months, and they've done it basically in a week. So it's one to watch.
All right, let's bring in this morning David Harrow, Harris Associates Chief Investment Officer on the Newsline, and Ed Yardeni, our friend, the president of Yardeni Research. Gentlemen, happy Friday. Good to talk to you.
Hello, as they say, TGIF. We have the weekend coming up, folks.
Ed, that's right.
Hi,
that's
Ed.
right. Ed, you were good, Ed, at trying to ferret out some silver linings. If we had to build a list of them this morning, what would you put on it?
Well, you know, this is this great virus crisis is three crises combined into one. It's a health crisis, it's an economic crisis, and it's a financial crisis. I'm not a virologist, but I'm looking for good news there if there's any to be had. And, you know, it looks like Abbott Labs may have a rapid test. That's the good news. The bad news is it may take a while to get enough tests out there. I am encouraged by some news that there might actually be a vaccine coming out of some university lab that has a lot of experience with SARS and MERS, and they seem to be making some good progress. And then I was all for masks. I think we shouldn't go out of the house without wearing masks. If we're all wearing them, I think there's some evidence that it reduces the likelihood that we'll infect each other. But again, that's the health crisis. I'm not a virologist. I have my opinions the way we all do. The really good news for the markets is on the financial front. This is like a war, right? So we have a health front, we've got an economic front, and we've got this financial front. And last week on Monday, the Fed decided the heck with the bazookas, the heck with the helicopters, let's just get the B-52s out. And we got QE4 forever. The week before we had QE4, which was kind of a bazooka helicopter. This is B-52 money, and I think it's stabilized the financial front really quite impressively. We got
so that's a good point, David. From a stock standpoint, I see Citi this morning is out saying that they think deleveraging from a positioning standpoint is mostly over. So is this now a period where we chop around between 19 and 22K and we await medical news, like Ed says? We await news on the effectiveness of policy response?
Well, what we believe is that, and this is looking at more of the European financials, as you know, there have been a number of programs, a number of both fiscal and monetary programs. Despite this backdrop help from governments and monetary authorities, these businesses have fallen 40, 50, in some instances over 50%. I'm talking about the blue chip European financials, companies like a BNP Paribas or a Lloyds Bank. And we believe that this is way, way, way overdone, given the strength of the balance sheet and the monetary help that's happening. We think this just really provides an opportunity for when we do see the light at the end of the virus tunnel. And we know the stock market tends to be kind of a predictor, but when we see the light, you'll see people starting to feel good and starting to buy some of these beaten down stocks. So we actually think this is a very good opportunity. We've been, I don't know what percent through we are through the health portion of this crisis, but it will end eventually. And when we see the beginning of the end, I think you'll see a very strong reaction on some of these beaten down share prices. As I mentioned, European financials and even some of the consumer discretionary.
Ed, I want to talk about the potential recovery. What do you think is going to determine the shape of that? Does it have to do with how many small businesses survive?